Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Port Angeles on another beautiful Thursday evening on November 17th. How is it November already? I don't know how that all happened. Bring home all those disparate parts of ourselves that we may have shunted off in the past. That is what we are all about. This month's theme is wholeness, and that is absolutely what we are talking about this month and pretty much every month. It's really all about bringing our wholeness back. We have a few announcements. This Friday is our game night, this Fun Day Friday, and that's from 7 to 9 p.m. in the big barn. So we invite you to come and play board games or card games and just have some social time. We will be off next Friday night for our Thanksgiving break, and we're hoping to put together a tango milonga, which is a particular type of social dance with tango, the first Friday in December. And then we have a special event, which is not in our program, which is a workshop on December 7th called All Things Recreated. And that's going to be about how we take recycled things and turn them into useful objects of beauty that we can actually use. So it's not just laying around our house. And that's happening on Wednesday, December 7th. And so there's more information about that on our webpage. And then we have our next No Moon Drumming on the 9th of December. So we've got all kinds of things going on. We have special music today, live special music. How exciting. Rebecca Palm wrote this song, God Is, I Am, and we're going to go through it full 4 times, but you'll get the gist of it, and I invite you, if you feel so moved, to join in at any point. I did print the words in the program, and so you can kind of get a sense of how it goes. So I invite us to just take a breath. And imagine that this song is a prayer. God is all there is, and I am one with God. God is all there is, and I am one with God. My heart is open to the full expression of this life living me. God is all there is, and I am one with God. God is all there is, and I am one with God. God is all there is, and I am one with God. My heart is open to the full expression of this life living me. God is all there is, and I am one with God. God is all there is, and I am one with God. God is all there is, and I am one with God. My heart is open to the full expression of this life living me. God is all there is, and I am one with And so it is. Thank you. I don't know about you, but I really needed that song today. I really needed that song this week, but especially today. I've had some interesting energies moving in my body this day. And I can label them. I can call them all kinds of things. But what they felt like was a constriction in my chest. And they felt like my face was hot. They felt like my heart was pounding a little faster. And my stomach was not very happy. So those are the sensations. And the labels could be fear or despair or all kinds of different things. And I want to avoid those labels. I want to just talk about when we feel a sensory experience, what do we do with that? My talk title tonight is A Place of Safety. And you'll notice I'm wearing some safety pins as my little belt today. And you may have seen on the internet a whole safety pin campaign that originated actually in England. When Brexit happened, when England just voted to leave the European Union, at the same time there was a rising up, apparently a rising up, of even more separation in the populace. And we're experiencing that, some of that now. Now, there has been separation, a sense of separation in all of our populaces for a very long time. But certain events have created a stronger sense of that. And so in England, people who wanted others to know that they personally were a safe space, no matter your race, your religion, your creed, your ethnicity, your sexual preference, whatever, that anyone wearing a safety pin was a safe space. And someone wearing a safety pin, if they saw someone being attacked or abused or degraded, that they would be willing to go and be an ally for that person. So that movement has come across the pond to us now and has risen up in, oh man, it's all over the place. And I notice a lot of people are going to make money off of this. There are things you can buy, jewelry and bracelets and all these things. But you can go to the store and you could just buy a safety pin or 2 or 3. And there's controversy about this symbol of safety, that I am a safe place. If you see me wearing this, that I am a safe place, there's controversy about the symbol. It's all over the place. A lot of people are saying it's just this symbol to make the wearer feel better, and it doesn't really do anything. And I was thinking a lot about that today. And I actually did some research, and I looked at a lot of different things. And I came across an article by a woman of color. Her name is, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, so I apologize in advance, Ijeomo Aluo. She's actually a writer, an editor-at-large of a magazine called The Establishment. She's the Seattle-based writer, a speaker, and internet yeller. And her work has appeared in The Guardian, The Stranger, New York Magazine, Huffington Post, and more. She was named one of the most influential people in Seattle by Seattle Magazine, and she's also a columnist at the Seattle Globist. And she pointed out that the safety pin symbol is nice, but what we really want you to do is get out there and do something. One of the final paragraphs of a very long article that I read, she says, I'm not saying you can't wear a safety pin. I don't have the power to say you can't wear anything. You can wear what you want. And the sight of a pin could well bring a smile to someone in time of need. But it's not enough. Not even close. Don't expect that pin to earn you trust. That was an interesting point. Don't expect thanks for the solidarity you should have always been showing. Don't expect your pin to provide comfort in lieu of action. and don't expect it to bring actual change. We have real work that has to be done, and I suggest we get started. And I agree with her. There has been bigotry and racism and sexism and ageism and all these isms for a very long time. And right now, it's very roiled up. And so my question to myself is, what can I do? What can I do? How can I be a change agent? How can I be an effective ally? Because I have to claim my middle class, middle-aged white woman, married, straight privilege. I have to recognize that's true of me, and how can I be a more effective ally? How can I be an actual place of safety for those who don't enjoy the privilege that I have felt my whole life? I've rarely felt unsafe in the world. Just by my existence felt that way. So I thought about symbols and how, symbols are very interesting. I got the idea of the peace symbol in my head, and I was curious because I remember somehow recently reading something about where it came from. So again, I went to the internet and did some research, and the peace symbol came from a drawing that a man did of a person with arms dropped in despair, and his movement was the nuclear disarmament. He had twofold ways for drawing the circle with this body, the line of the middle of the peace symbol, and the two downward arms. And one was that it was his feeling of despair that we had nuclear weapons to begin with, and also in semaphore, the language of the sea, that the N and the D, the N goes like this and the D goes like this. So that became nuclear disarmament. That's where the peace symbol came from, it was a big movement for nuclear disarmament. And it was fascinating reading about the peace symbol because there's also controversy about that it's a satanic symbol and that it doesn't mean peace at all and all this other controversy. But most of us know it as a peace symbol, a symbol for peace. And we don't attach a lot of other stuff to it. Years ago, when I was the office manager of the Center for Spiritual Living in St. Louis, where my mother was the senior minister, we had a very large Science of Mind symbol. Well, this is teeny. See if I can find a big example of it real quickly in the book. It's a circle with a V. Oh, good. Here we go. So this is the Science of Mind symbol. We know, most of us know it. I'm going to go back into the light. We'll zoom in out later. So it's a circle with a V and a couple of lines. We had a very large, beautiful wooden representation of this symbol in the lobby of our center. And we were across the street from a library. So we would often get people wandering in, wondering, what is this place? Center for Spiritual Living. And I got to explain our teaching symbol, because that's what that is. It's a teaching symbol. And I got to explain it again and again and again and again. And it's just a symbol. It is not our whole teaching. It is a symbol of what we stand for, what we believe in. Symbols can be very powerful. We see a lot of negative symbols out there in the world, the swastika, the Confederate flag. There's a lot of things that have become negative symbols, and there's a lot of really positive symbols out there. So we get to decide how these symbols resonate with us. That's something I want to talk about. The biggest thing for me is, I remember another minister saying, I want to be a safe space. I want to mostly be a safe space in my own mind. I want to have safety, a safe place for myself to exist within my own mind. Because so often we are not a safe space for ourselves. Earlier today, I didn't feel like a safe space for myself because I was upset about some stuff. And I want to know that I'm safe from what I call the rut of reaction. That came up to my head today, that phrase. I'm stuck in the rut of reaction. I started to go down the rut of reaction. I started to go into fear and despair and confusion and helplessness and feeling ignorant. in reading that woman's article, I felt really ignorant. And I can educate myself. I'm not dumb. I'm just ignorant sometimes. I used to say, you know, I don't see color. Well, then I took a class, and a diversity class, and I had a lot of conversations, and I realized that that was an ignorant position that I was taking. It was an uneducated position. And so now I don't say that anymore. I am aware that it's important to honor a particular person's path and their life history. And it may not look anything like what I'm familiar with, but it's important to do that. So I want to be a place of safety first in my own mind. I want to notice when I'm getting into the rut of reaction and be kind enough to myself to pull myself out of it. Does anybody else have that experience where something happens and you immediately fall back into this old thinking, this old pattern, this old behavior? I didn't stay there very long, but I felt it. I felt it very fully. And luckily I've got somebody in my life that I can express to when I get caught in the rut, and they'll help kind of steer me out of it. I've got a lot of somebodies that do that. And so I invite us that if we notice we're going into the rut of reaction, to seek out those people that won't let us drive deeper into the ditch. Oh, that's terrible, you're right, it's never going to, but in fact will help move us out of that rut. And a lot of how we think and behave and move in the world is kind of this rut of reaction. This rut of reaction. I see something on Facebook or I hear somebody comment and I get kind of an automatic trigger sometimes, and I get to stop and go, okay, what's this really about? Where is this in me? This thing I'm reacting to. Where does it live in me? And can I have a safe enough space within me to pay attention, to educate myself, to bring it into the light? I vividly remember, again, when I lived in St. Louis, that was a really pivotal time for me for a lot of reasons. I was drama teaching in many, many, many schools. And I vividly remember going into an inner city school in St. Louis. St. Louis has a lot of segregation still in where the population lives. And I vividly remember thinking, as I was going to this inner city school, what do I have to give these kids? My experience is different from their experience. Who am I, this white woman, to be coming into their school trying to teach them anything about life? I very quickly let that go. They're just kids. I know how to be with kids. They're just like every other kid I've ever been with. They're kids. So we play and we have fun and we do my drama class and everything's great. But I remember having the feeling, the discomfort, and I didn't know it at the time to recognize it and call it that I was having this uncomfortable feeling of my white privilege. But that's what it was. And I remember feeling ignorant and helpless, and I don't know how to maneuver in this in a way that allows others around me to feel safe, because that's important to me. That's deeply important to me. So I got to learn. I got to look beyond. I got to push against what I had known. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of good discipline. Reverend Clancy mentioned discipline is just practice. That's all it is. So when we get caught in the rut of reaction, that's where our good discipline, our good practice, my good practice and hopefully yours, can come into play. What can we do to, that we know to do to pull us out of that reactive rut? What are the practices that we've honed enough that they can pull us out? The Science of Mind textbook has a lot of good stuff. One of the things Ernest Holmes says on page 147, there is then no limitation outside our own ignorance. So our own ignorance is the only limitation we have. And since we can all conceive of a greater good than we have so far experienced, we all have the ability to transcend previous experiences and rise triumphant above them. But we shall never triumph over them while we persist in going through the old mental reactions. We shall never triumph over them while we persist in going through the old mental reactions, the old rut of reaction. We all have the ability to transcend previous experience. When my mind wants to say, but it's always been that way, that's previous experience. And we don't have to get caught in that. We can transcend how it's always been, what it's always looked like. That's what's happening now in the world. We are beginning to step above and beyond how it's been. Because how it's been for a whole lot of people has not been okay. The other quote from tonight is from Romans. For if God be for us, who can be against us? We believe in this philosophy that God is good. God is always for us, even when it doesn't look like it. That this universal presence, this infinite knower, is always for us, never against us. So if this infinite knower that is everything and all things is always for us, then there is nothing that can be against us, even when it looks like it. So again, from the same area in the book, page 146. Through spiritual discernment, we see that we have within us a power which is greater than anything we shall ever contact. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. If God be for us, who can be against us? A power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience. That's pretty powerful. That's pretty big. Bigger than I can comprehend. And I've got a pretty good imagination. So when I ask myself the question, what can I do? There are a lot of things. I can write to people who make decisions in our government, local, state, and our country. The suggestion is to write versus email, because if you send a letter, they have to open it. I think it was Samantha B. that mentioned that on one show we were watching recently. If you send an email, then they can ignore it. But if you send a letter, they have to open it. You can call your local representatives and tell them how you think about certain things and what you want them to do. They are our elected officials. We have chosen them, even when we don't feel like we have. So whether we voted for them or not, they still work for us. So we can call them. We can also donate to causes that we want to see more of in the world. One is the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm not going to show you the cover of this month's newsletter because it's a little heavy. But Southern Poverty Law Center is an organization that's been around for decades that keeps a good watch on hate groups and other miscreants in the world and really calls them out. They do effective work in the legal system in rooting out some of this inequality that's going on in the world. There's also a very good organization called Teach Tolerance. There are a lot of good organizations that do a lot of good work in helping to educate the ignorant, to help us to begin to see differently. I posted this week on Facebook that our former mayor, when my husband and I lived in San Diego, the mayor there was a Republican, and at the time didn't really speak about gay marriage. And San Diego has a very large gay population. Our center that we went to has a very large gay population. LGBTQ is more correct. And the mayor has a daughter who happens to be a lesbian. And finally, I don't even remember how old she was, but she was in a relationship and wanting to get married. And he finally spoke out publicly in favor of gay marriage. And that was a big risk. That was a huge risk. And we got to witness someone's mind being opened to something new. There's story after story after story of someone whose child marries someone of another color, and then they look at their grandbaby for the first time, and suddenly their years of racism fall off because they cannot look at this innocent child and see the hatred that they've carried in their heart anymore. There's time after time after time. And so I believe that there's hope for all of us to become educated, to become enlightened, to step out of our ignorance into something else so that we all can be a place of safety for each other every day. I get to do my work. I get to see where can I step out in the world and make a positive difference. More than just this. Where can I most effectively stand for those who need to be stood for? It's awkward, but you know what I mean. That's what to do. What to be is a whole other question. What to be is this grounded, rooted place of peace, this grounded, rooted place of possibility, infinite possibility for good. And despite whatever's going on inside of me, despite what seems to be going on in the world, to stand for my own safety and health and self, and then I can be that for others. To stand for what we believe in, the oneness of all life. And to do that in a way that serves the world in a greater way. I'd like to close tonight with my version of the Lord's Prayer. I went to a weekend retreat, and we were invited to rewrite the Lord's Prayer in a way that sang better to us. And so this works for me. And I'm just going to invite us to use this as our closing meditation. So I invite you to take a breath. Just notice what's going on in your body with this conversation, and just allow it to be what it is. My origin, which is everywhere and within me, holy is your nature. Your realm is here, now. Thy will is done within and as me. Give me this day my substance, all that I need and more. Unbind me from all that holds me in smallness. Fill me with confidence to command the law. Remind me if I forget our connection. For you, for we, are the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. This is our time for conscious giving. We practice this at our center. We are a part of the flow of life. We are a safe space where money can flow in and flow out. And so if you have a gift that you're giving today, I invite you to hold it on your heart, whether your gift is time, talent, or treasure. And we have a conscious giving prayer that I invite us to say together. I am open to give. I am open to receive. I am grateful to be in the flow of life, through and as me.